What is an ecosystem fund? Polygon has $100 million ecosystem fund that you've been leading for a while. What is an ecosystem fund and how is it different from a typical VC fund?
Yeah, so an ecosystem fund is focused on, I would say both venture investments, but also the growth of the ecosystem. So when we first started Polygon Ventures, I would say, some of our investments were focused on, growth of the Polygon ecosystem. So it may not necessarily make sense from a venture standpoint because the valuation was very expensive, but maybe it made sense a lot from a strategic perspective. Like, they may add a lot more users to Polygon, or there might just be like a strategic business angle. So that's kind of the difference between an ecosystem fund and a venture fund, where, a venture fund typically invests bigger check sizes. They can take concentrated bets, whereas with an ecosystem fund, typically the check sizes are smaller. You may not be focused on just purely returns, but you're also focused on growing the Polygon ecosystem as well. So yeah, we've made a couple of investments where, it may not make sense from a venture perspective, but it added a lot of value from Polygon's ecosystem perspective.
How big is the ventures team at Polygon?
Right now it's 4 people focused on investing. The total team size is like 7.
7, okay.
Yeah.
And how is the team structured?
We have people that focus on the investment side. So it's based on what your focus is. So we have one guy that focuses on gaming. I like to focus on consumer, but I've been looking at infrastructure as well because that's kind of where the market is. We have 2 people that focus on like DeFi and infrastructure. So we break it down based on, what your specific focus or vertical is. Then we have like an operations team, which handles, making sure these investments are done. We also have a portfolio management team or portfolio manager because we have a lot of investments. And then we also have investor relations where, I focus a lot of my energy on as well.
Right.
To educate VCs about, what's happening with the Polygon ecosystem.
When the ecosystem fund was set up, how many people were there and how did you set up the initial framework? Because, you've mentioned this quite a few times in different places that you were one of the first people at the venture side, right? And you would set up the initial framework. I think right when we were speaking, like when I got introduced to you, I was talking to you and Ashima at the time. So how was that process like?
Initially it was the business development team was part of the IC process as well. So the investment committee was like, I think the first step for me was setting up an investment committee where we would talk.
What is an investment committee?
Investment committee is where, you typically have a group of people who discuss what projects that we think we should invest in through the ecosystem fund. You have a formal process where you have to write an investment memo and then present it to the investment committee. And then the investment committee would vote on whether we think it's a good investment or not. So initially, the investment committee was composed of me, who was part of the venture team, along with other business development team members as well. So like Sankit, Sandeep was also part of it, Shreyansh as well. I set up the general framework for the investment committee, but then over time, that structure kind of changed. The team on the venture side got bigger because we had a lot of deals, and there was just a lot more work that had to be done on the venture side. So now the investment committee is composed of just the venture team. And then sometimes if the business development team has input, they would suggest projects, but they're not, we try to stay agnostic and, we try to not stay biased because, there may be some bias on the business development side because their mandate is to get as much adoption of Polygon, but, that may not necessarily align with our mandate in the venture side. Like we want to make sure that these investments make sense from a financial standpoint.
And I believe you've deployed the entire 100 million of the fund already, right?
We've deployed 80%.
80%.
Yeah, we still
How
have
many deals have you made?
Too many. I think it's about 150 or so.
Okay, and what are your typical check sizes?
It ranges between 100K up to 500K.
And some of your notable investments that you really fond of?
Yeah, some of our notable, like Eigenlayer was one that we invested in. Babylon's also a recent one. Babylon's a Bitcoin restaking layer. Meme Land was also a good investment. What else? We've also invested in Magic Eden, and they ended up being like a very close strategic partner.
Right.
So yeah, a couple of notable Layer Zero as well. So a couple of notable investments.